Okay, folks, welcome to the presentation. Thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate you guys spending this Friday. It is Friday. Any days, look, anytime it's a Friday, it's a good day. At least that's in my opinion. Every Friday is a good Friday. So, but hopefully, wherever you are in this world, you are staying comfortable and cool, because I know here in Kentucky it is hot. I mean, let me tell you something. It is terrible. But we are now live on all of our formats, and I appreciate all of you guys being here. Oh, I forgot. There we go. Now, see, you forget to push buttons. That's what happens. I forgot to push buttons. So, yeah, we're live, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Bishop James Long with the Sacred Division. The Sacred Division, this is our 20th year anniversary. 20th year. It's crazy being on. We started on radio, online radio. That's it. And we didn't do video because I have a face for radio. So we just strictly did radio only. And now we're doing radio and pretty much going everywhere. It's pretty cool. Okay. Let me tell you a couple things before we get into our presentation. First of all, I want you to go to our sponsors site, our KGRADB radio. They are just we're such a blessing to be a part of the family. It's KGRADB.com. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. And I want you to make sure that you go there and subscribe. They have amazing shows there. I mean, I found out some pretty big hitters in the paranormal community, and I had no idea. I'm just learning that there's so many shows there. So if you love the paranormal, you got to go to the site. But put Bishop as your promo code, because you're going to get 30% off. So why not? So anytime you can get 30% off, it's already cheap enough as it is. But they have some phenomenal shows. And yep, this show right here, the Sacred Division, airs live on KGRADB. And you can also watch it on Encore as well. So there you have it. Also, my website, very simple, bishopjameslong.com. There, that's it, bishopjameslong.com. And if you want to know the church's website, just go to usocc.org. And it takes you to that to our website there. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about my website or anything like that, because what I want to do is get into the presentation. Now, most of you who follow me, you know that I very rarely ever have guests on. And to be honest with you, there's a reason for it, because I hate to say it. I mean, a lot of guests, they talk about demonology and they have no idea what they're talking about. So I don't really have a whole lot of guests on the show. Very rare. But tonight is a special night. It is a special night because I have the honor of calling. I think these guys are genius. And now I'm going to do something, and in a minute, I'm telling you, you should know who these guests are. So I'm going to play a particular song, one of my all-time favorite songs. Matter of fact, I even listen to this song when I'm doing my 5-mile walk outside in 100-degree weather. I literally listen to this with my earbuds. One of my favorite songs that these guys have ever produced. And I hope that let me just say that Facebook says, "Oh, you can't play that, copyright." Oh, listen. Man. I tell you what, guys, it does not get any better than that. It's truly some of the greatest musicians, I think, on the planet when it comes to this type of format. And I mean that. I'm not. That's not hyperbole. That's being really. I'm being absolutely serious about that. So let's talk to my friends, Midnight Syndicate. Hello, Midnight Syndicate. How are you?
That's a heck of an intro. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I'm telling you what, it is an honor to have you guys back on the air. I have followed your work for years. Had the opportunity to even, I think it was at Scarefest, yes, is where we finally got to meet. Because I'm telling you, guys, look, here's the deal. If you love Gothic music, if you love horror music, but it's not just that. It's what's so amazing about these guys is they can play carnival music and then turn right around and make carnival music sounds really creepy and spooky. or even lullaby music, for goodness sakes. I mean, but how they're able to do it is is ingenious. Ingenious. And I truly, I mean that. Yeah. Fallen Grandeur. I have all your, first of all, I have all your albums.
Thank you.
But I got to tell you, now there's this one song, and we're going to talk about your new album in just a second. But Fallen Grandeur, I don't know what it is. It is, but it's also this one. Listen to this, everybody. This is pretty cool too. I mean, that's called Alchemist Chamber. I mean, that is truly, truly, truly amazing. But I know that's the old album. We want to talk about the new album. Okay, how are you guys doing, Midnight Syndicate? And first of all, let's just get right into it. Now, these fellas have so many albums, and I'm telling you, you got to get them, and you have to get the new album. Phenomenal. So can you give a little bit of brief history of who Midnight Syndicate is and who you are?
Yeah, I'm Ed Douglas, and here today also is Gavin Casca, and yes, and the two of us are Midnight Syndicate, and we make and create all the music on the Midnight Syndicate albums. The simplest way to describe what we do is we call it soundtracks to imaginary films, and we create these soundtracks to imaginary films that are designed to, transport you to a world or a movie of your own creation when you listen to them. We do that through the use of orchestral music and sound effects, because sound can so much pull you into a world or an atmosphere just as much as music can. And so that is what we do. And we really enjoy horror and gothic themes and the paranormal and fantasy. And so the themes of a lot of our albums tend to drift that way, especially towards the horror side of things. And we have been making these different kind of themed albums, like for a haunted house or an abandoned village by the sea, or a carnival, or a spooky theater club, or a Dungeons and Dragons over the years. And because the music is very atmospheric, it really resonates with a lot of people with wonderful imaginations and people who like to just, lose themselves in music. But also practically, people use our music to set the scene for Halloween, for haunted attractions, amusement parks during Halloween, and for like role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. Whenever people need to set an atmosphere, they turn to us oftentimes, and that is how we've been able to do this for 26 years. Just keep putting out more albums and live shows, and hopefully that's a fairly succinct summary of our story.
Well, here's what because I know that one of the albums, of course, your albums have been played in movies, but I don't understand why every movie doesn't have a Midnight Syndicate song in it. I mean, because because your albums are so vast and it is so unique that any type of movie that if you're doing a horror or paranormal supernatural movie, I mean, you're going to have a song for it. Midnight Syndicate is going to have a song for that particular movie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have been, been featured in plenty of movies over the years. We even scored a couple of horror films and produced our own horror film called The Dead Matter a few years ago. Those are more like side projects, though. It's, our goal has not really been to become movie film composers. It's really creating these Midnight Syndicate albums where the images and the stories are really left up to the listener. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about, hopefully one of the more powerful things about what we do is when you listen to it, you're hearing something unique to yourself in an amazing world. And it's very, it's very specific to the listener. We don't try and tell you what you're supposed to hear or see when you listen to one of our albums. We want to leave it up to you, because that's when the best ideas come and the most exciting stories. People say when they hear stuff and they tell us whether, So
I think there's a common core to to like our sound basically. For like the Dungeons and Dragons album, you might go into that thinking, oh, this is going to be just pure fantasy. We did a Christmas album called Christmas A Ghost Gathering, and I think there's always like a darkness there, even though it may be balanced with like say lighter tones, lighter atmospheres and stuff, or in the case of Dungeons and Dragons, like more of a fantasy element. I think underneath all of that, you can kind of tell it's us. And that's one of the things that we always want to make sure is there, is that like that core essence, I guess, if you want to call it that.
I tell you what now, guys, first of all, their brand new album, because I want to promote this. For those of you who are just joining us, we're talking to Midnight Syndicate. You got to go out. You got to get you got to get the albums. You just have to, because if you love horror, if you love gothic, if you love powerful music that's very moving, I've been a fan of these guys for a long time. Then you can't get any better than Midnight Syndicate, and their new album is really very, very cool. The Brimstone Club. Now,
yes,
I got to figure out how did you come up with the name the Brimstone Club? How did you figure this? Tell us about that.
Well, the basic, we were inspired. I'm sorry, there was a club created in Paris, France, back in the late 19th century called Cabaret de l'Enfer.
Okay.
I'm butchering it terrible, but it's basically Cabaret of Hell. And basically what it was is spiritualism was really big in the country at the time. And so they built a bar that was like the first themed restaurant, the first themed bar, and this was themed like hell. So you went through a big mouth, and then you were greeted by a little guy dressed up like a devil who would take your order, and then you would have your drinks, and there was entertainment, and you could take your photo in a barrel where demons would be poking forks at you. It was very theatrical. It was very much the precursor to not only themed restaurants, but in a way, the precursor to haunted attractions and everything we see at Halloween time and fun houses, all this. And they would do spiritualist, like acts, little performances and stuff. Now if you go look it up, there's enough pictures there to spark your imagination and enough information to you get your mind going. But then there's so much that's not known about this place. It was eventually closed in the 30s or the 20s and then torn down in the 50s. But like, there's just enough that's not known about it that your imagination is going to start to fill in the details, like what else happened here at this really, and that's the thing that really drove this album. A theater club, is it haunted perhaps? But that has very interesting clientele and very interesting acts. And is there something else there? These are the questions that we want you to ask and think about as you listen to this album. And the Brimstone Club just seemed like Gavin came up with the title for it. Gavin, with the Brimstone Club, it was.
Yeah, I was trying to find just something, more, I don't know if you want to call it descriptive or something, just a different way of saying, this kind of idea, like conveying this kind of idea. And the word brimstone just has a lot of, like, you can visualize a lot with that and stuff. So it just kind of stuck.
Well, I tell you what, it's interesting because as you describe it, and the artwork on the album is pretty phenomenal. And now, as you're describing, I'm like, well, now I get it, because, as you describe this club, it's like that's kind of creepy. Okay, so I've got to ask this question because I know you've heard it. I'm sure you have. Your music is powerful, but obviously it's horror, gothic, and others, not just that. I've got to ask, what about the hater gators out there? Have they said you're doing the work of the devil doing this terrible music, or have you heard much of that, or is that just kind of like, okay, let's just take a chill pill and relax a little bit?
Not so far. I mean, maybe we'll get that with this album because of the title and everything. Yeah. It's I guess it's kind of asking for that kind of.
It's fascinating too, but we actually have not, and over our history, we have not. That has not been ever really a problem. Maybe when you listen to the music, a lot of it's classical music. Yes, that's what it is at the core, and a lot of the music, on like our Christmas album, which is one of my favorite things that we've ever done. Mm-hmm. It's darkly beautiful. and sometimes it's very emotional. So it's like there's layers to our music, and it's not necessarily offensive. And lyrics, there's nothing, we're not. This is all the music is about is providing escape for people, and like, just get your imagination going and stuff like that. So I'm very happy to say that we've never really run into, over 25 years, 26 years now, we've been fortunate not to have any of that backlash, or people that don't like it just stay away. But we don't get like posts on our Facebook page or anything like that. It's just, which is nice. People listen to the music and like, oh, there's nothing to this. It's just,
I think we've always played into the more mysterious side of it too.
Yes,
with even like the song titles, like it's like Realm of Shadows. That could be anything. What is the Realm of Shadows? You decide, but it's not very like specific to a particular like a religion or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I certainly agree. I think you're at one. You hit the nail right on. It's powerful classical music. Really, it's music that I think that attracted me to it. From somber mellow music to really powerful music. For example, now do you mind if I just play a little bit of the Brimstone Club, your theme called the Brimstone Club on the new album? You mind if I just play that for them?
Oh, sure.
This is actually, I got to tell you now, guys. Now the Fallen Grandeur, we talked about this before.
You like the pipe organ.
Man,
you definitely like the pipe organ. We're getting that for sure.
I'm telling you, there's just something. It is just one of the most powerful classical Gothic. It reminds me very much of like the old Dracula. The old Dracula, where you're on the buggy. I could just visualize the 1930s. Where you're just, the buggy's driving on that scary road and that music is playing where it's black and white and you see Dracula's castle. To me, that would be the epitome of the best music going into Dracula's castle. At least that's in my opinion. But here is, folks, for those of you just tuning in, I'm talking to Midnight Syndicate, and they have a brand new album called The Brimstone Club. And you got to get it. You got to go buy it. You got to go download it. Get it today, because I'm telling you, it is phenomenal. Listen to this. This is the Brimstone Club. That's the name of the song. Pretty powerful. I love the bass in that, the drum beat. Isn't that phenomenal, everybody? Just listen. Let me tell you something. That piano, and I'm going to say this: that piano version that you hear, I could.
Yes.
That is on par, I think, with the John Carpenter's Halloween theme. It is just that. It's that classic.
Wow, I think John Carpenter is definitely, one of those many composers whose work influenced us. So anytime we're being mentioned, or we'll take that. That's wonderful.
It's a high compliment.
Yeah, because of course, that's of course, John Carpenter. It was, to be honest, it was so simple. But I would say your music is John Carpenter times 100, because you add so much more element to it. But again, that's a phenomenal song. And I listened to the entire album. So again, you have to go get it. And if you like it, don't just buy that, buy all of them, because you're not going to be disappointed. I promise you.
So great.
I promise you won't be disappointed, guys. If you like this type of music, and this is the truth. And I would tell you, not to be mean, but if I really truly thought, that album kind of missed the boat there for me, I would tell you. But I can honestly say not one of the album, not one did I say, man, I wish I wouldn't have bought that. Not one of those. Every single one of them was like, man, can I have more? Can I have more of that? Even the Christmas, I agree that the Christmas album was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. When we look back at we did a lot of looking at, last year was our 25th anniversary. So you tend to just look back at your career at that little point in time. And, I look back at all of our albums, and I'm really proud of each one of them. They each bring something to the table, but I'm very proud of them to this day. Like, Gavin, I feel the same way. I mean, I'm not talking for you two, Gavin.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like they kind of encapsulate a chapter of kind of like our musical history and development and everything. And there's something special about each one, whether it was like, maybe being able to like advance our use of sound effects, or just take writing in a different direction, bring in some different instruments, whatever the case may be. You can look at every single one and go, oh, okay, that's kind of cool about this,
Yeah, and as a reminder, of course, folks, October is just right around the corner. So I know we have a lot of people who are Halloween fans. That you enjoy I love Halloween, and they have one album that's just amazing. It's a Halloween music. I mean, it's
yes.
That's what it's called, Halloween music, and they have all the just. Tell me what that had to have been very difficult to actually decide which music you chose, because the songs are so amazing on all the platforms. How did you decide to narrow it down to? I mean, really, only you had 22 songs.
You're too kind. Well, it was that was probably our first collection, our first like it was a best of, but that was like our 13th anniversary, so it's going back a little while. But Gavin, man, can you remember what we were thinking? We were trying to, it was really about going to the fans and asking them, hey, what songs resonated with you? Which are the songs that kind of pulled you in? And some of them were no brainers because we just knew, that people really liked them and stuff. But then it was also asking, around and seeing what songs resonated with people. I think, wasn't that, Gavin? And try and bring a little bit in from each one of the albums.
And just really trying to capture the spirit of Halloween itself. Even though all of our music, it has darker elements and stuff to it, like, what do we think is really the feel of Halloween? What captures it the best?
Yeah, and certainly I think all 22 songs. And for those of you in TikTok, thank you very much already for the 49,000 likes on TikTok. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We've only been on for 22 minutes. We have 49,000 likes. So thank you for being here, everybody.
Wow, how amazing. That's you. You're doing wonderful stuff.
Well, no, it's Midnight Syndicate. That's because people, I'm telling you, there's one particular song. If any of you are ever doing, okay, let me ask you this question. If anybody out there is doing a film or like a documentary or something that they think, what kind of music could we play? How do they contact you to ask if they have permission to play some of your music in a documentary or something that they're creating, a video they're creating? That's important. That's an important question.
Well, if it's a documentary, if it's a film, a project that's that you're planning it, you can literally reach out to us on our website. On our website, you'll see a contact tab, and one of the actual things that you could say, it's a licensing question, but it's the contact form. We're very responsive, and we read them all, and we get back to people too. So that's the best way if it's for that. As we're on TikTok here, we actually did submit all of our songs to TikTok from this new album. So if people want to make TikToks of this music, and I think some of the songs on this new album are just made for little cool TikTok videos, little cool creepy things. So we hope people will seek out the music and make some little videos and stuff like that. It's great. We like it because it'll expose some people to our music, but then it also, gives people a creative outlet to, express themselves visually and have the music do that. So it's kind of cool. So win for everybody.
So let me ask you now, I would like to recreate my video entrance. What do I have to do if I say, hey, look, I'd like to do Fallen Grandeur as my introduction music for Facebook?
You practically have to, because you like the song so much.
I have
to do that.
So
that's it. No, we'll talk, and it's the same thing. Contact us, and we love working with our fellow artists and our friends and stuff and we can work something out simply, quite simply, you know what I mean? It's all about trying just to promote each other and stuff like that. And how can we work together so that everybody wins through this, and we're always able to come up with something that's a win-win for everybody.
So, if you're doing a documentary or if you're doing a movie, if you want to, your friends want to get together, for example, this would be a really cool. This is called Haunted Nursery. It's kind of cool.
Yes, this is the intro to it. So it does take a little while for it to kick in, but this is.
So yeah, if you're, I could.
The part that you're talking about, come up just a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We added a little. This is a little bit of an intro here.
You got to have the dramatic effect. See, now I could just imagine a bunch of cribs in a haunted location with cobwebs everywhere, and they're all vampire children. Oh no, you better don't. But no,
Excellent.
It's it's just amazing. That's what I'm saying. There, the music is so diverse, and that's what's so cool about it. I know I don't think I've ever asked you that. What did you guys do before creating Midnight Syndicate?
Oh wow. That's fine. We haven't been really asked. Yeah, I'll let you start.
As far as just jobs and stuff.
Well, yeah, not so much. I'm just, how did you come about? You're going to create this type of music. Where did that come from? Were you musicians prior to getting together? I mean, how did it start?
Yeah. We both had a longstanding interest in horror, like horror movies, and like the music that had been available. Those little sound effects tapes that you could buy, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I used to work in a retail music store, which is actually how I met Ed. He came in as a customer originally, and I helped him put a studio together for. He was working on the very, very first self-titled Midnight Syndicate CD, which was kind of I wasn't involved in it as far as like an artist at that point. I was just kind of advising on mixing and stuff, but it was kind of a mix of styles and everything. And a lot of the darker elements that I heard on that, I thought, this is really something I could get into. And I threw out the idea of like maybe helping with some writing and stuff if you needed that at some point. And following that, it was not very long afterwards that he called me and he basically said, "Hey, there's this project kind of on the table called Born of the Night. Is it something that you'd be interested in?" And I was like, "Absolutely," because there was really nothing out like it at the time. It was just purely atmospheric, just music. I mean, it didn't tie to a movie. It wasn't just all sound effects. And I'm like, this is great. This is like the chance to kind of make something that isn't out there yet, and it just kind of went from there.
And for me, it was just, I started in, well, I've always done music, but I spent most of my college career was spent in theater and film, and then scoring some of the student films that I did when I was there. So and working within audio and doing the audio for these student films, I just really started and loving the old audio dramas. I loved how sound effects could really pull you into a place. And I've always loved the dark and the instrumental music. And so, that's sort of the whole soundtracks to imaginary films kind of, I would really love to go ahead and do this. My first project out of college was actually an original version of that Dead Matter movie that I told you about earlier.
Yep.
I shot a micro budget version of that coming out of college. It was fine, but the best part about it was scoring it. And so at the end of that, I had a lot of this music written that, really kind of would set the pace for where Midnight Syndicate would go. And I had, like Gavin said, I did a first Midnight Syndicate album. It was a little bit more eclectic. It wasn't all dark. It wasn't all orchestral instrumental. It was mostly, but not. But immediately after that, I was like, I need to find a writing partner, and let's dial in on what we love best, which is definitely the more horror things, and do what we do best, which is probably this orchestral instrumental. The instrumental music was the strongest stuff on that first album. So let's let's go this direction. And then, like Gavin said, we were doing something that nobody was doing at the time. And that just brings in the whole business side of it. Like, oh, you have an opportunity now to take this album and take it out to everybody who loves Halloween music and everybody that's having a Halloween party. And then that's what we did. We hustled and just took it out to everybody and took it out to every haunted house and every amusement park that we could find. The big ones, Six Flags, Halloween Horror Nights, Universal, Cedar Fair Parks, just sent this CD to them. Said, hey, this is something different. It's atmospheric music with a little bit of sound effects in it, but you need to have this. And they listened and they liked it. And that's where the whole ride just started. And we've not really looked back since, just kept going ahead.
For those of you just tuning in, we're talking to our friends there, Midnight Syndicate. Now, first of all, you need to go to the website, Midnight Syndicate. Syndicate is SYNDICATE.com, Midnight Syndicate. And they have all their albums there. So you can purchase their albums. They have a brand new album that is out that is really, really phenomenal, The Brimstone Club. Which I'm going to have to do some research on that, because that sounds like that would be a pretty cool show to do it on a Paranormal Friday show. That would be a neat day to investigate. So the Brimstone Club is the name of the album, the brand new album. They have a lot of albums out there already. And Midnight Syndicate. It is on Apple Music. Midnight, SYNDICATE. .com. Make sure you guys go there, because you guys have a newsletter as well. So you got to subscribe to the newsletter so you guys can get up to date as to what albums are working on, or because you do live presentations as well. Or I've seen several of your live events.
Yeah, we've been doing live shows out at Cedar Point, which is a local amusement park, since 2014. And that's been a blast. Every year, we bring a different theme, kind of a different show to mix it up, keep you on your toes and stuff. And it's just been a blast working with them. They're fantastic. It's nice to be able to play some of these songs live, so.
Okay, so I guess the obvious question that probably most, and if you have any questions, guys, you can throw them out in the chat room. I'll do the best to keep up with the questions. But what has been your favorite album that you have worked on, and why?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think for me, there's probably a couple for different reasons. I always go back to Gates of Delirium because that, I think, to me, it marked a big turning point in our sound, in our production ability and everything. We really, really started to bring in sound effects in a very immersive way, and they were such a critical part of telling that story. I just look at it as like a kind of a leap forward in terms of production. But honestly, the Brimstone Club, I mean, I know that's probably cliche to promote you that way, but it really is. I mean, I'm very proud of what we've done here. It's a lot of, it's a different approach to kind of our sound and everything, and bringing in some really interesting elements and everything. And it just came together really well. I mean, I think that was a good sign when you're working on something and the writing of it and the production of it doesn't feel like it's work. It's like very easy and very natural. I took that as a good sign, and it happened that way very early on.
Yeah. This new album is very exciting. It's nice to see the response that we've gotten so far. It's only been a week now, but the response we're seeing is really good, and it makes us feel really good because we feel good about this one. And it's a special disc. It really is. This cabaret from Paris was a great source of inspiration. It just really made the ideas flow, and we have a cool little potential story here that are laid out on that album. And I hope that people that have the CD look at all the liner notes and everything, and we'll post some of this extra stuff on our website, some of the little background to the album, and I think it's going to spark people's imagination even more. As far as the favorite album, I'm very happy with this new one. I think I mentioned it before. Christmas, A Ghostly Gathering is definitely one of my favorite things we've ever done, which is strange because it is certainly one of our more unique albums. But it just has a full breadth of layers to it. It's got some of this dark, some of the darkly beautiful, some of the just flat out, pretty haunting type sounds, and just in a really fun, really enjoyable way, and I'm so happy with how that album came out. And then probably the 13th Hour is just special because that was the album that has Your Fallen Grandeur on it.
You bet.
That you love, you know what I mean? And so many other songs that like really helped define Midnight Syndicate. You know, after a couple of years in, and so yeah, that album's always going to be very, very special. And the integration of sound effects into the music was, again, and Carnival Arcane, if we're saying that, because I love when we can nail the sound effects and marry them with the music and really give people something immersive. I think those are the albums that we were able to really blend sound effects and music super highly well together. And this new one.
So, of course, I'll get to your questions there. We have some really great questions there on TikTok in just a second. But let me ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Now, obviously, with this particular album, the brand new album that you have out, the Brimstone Club, Midnight Syndicate, go get it, midnightsyndicate.com, everybody. Is there a particular song that you're like, man, this is it?
Yeah, man.
Oh, that is a tough question. Oh, man.
It's tough because it's such a new thing, too. Like, we just came off of actually making it. So it's like, you know, you've got that kind of like, it's just fresh in your brain. Man. Ooh. You can jump in if you want to. Ed.
I know. You're delaying. We're delaying here. What is the? Oh man.
Because there's so many. There's so many good ones.
There's a couple really cool tracks on this one. I think that Saturnalia is like almost like a tango, and it has like this Addams Family vibe to it, which makes it totally different from anything that we've done so far. And I always felt like that one was speaking to me. I'm like, oh, that is really friggin' cool. And Fortune's Folly is also very hooky. I just like, I like totally dig it. I will throw this thing out. The incomparable Mr. Jingles makes me laugh. Like, I'm really happy with how that turned out. Never have I written, like, if I put together a song, and I'm picking one of my own songs. I'm not. It's not, I picked Saturnalia and Fortune's Folly over it. But the incomparable Mr. Jingles, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it makes me smile to myself when I listen to it. So I suppose I'll take that as, because it's amusing to me. And I think it really puts an image in people's head when you listen to it in a nice, quiet room.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jingles. That's the one I kind of thought of at the same time. It's funny. For maybe a little different reason, the first time that I heard that, it immediately conjured up not just like a feel or like a place or anything. It was a very, very specific sequence of events, a very specific story. And I'm like, okay, that's the centerpiece of this album. It says something. Like, I mean, you don't really have to work too hard to get something out of it. So I think it's very effective in that way.
For those of you who, again, you can go to midnightsyndicate.com, SYNDICATE, midnightsyndicate.com, and you can find out what they're talking about as far as the brand new album, the Brimstone Club. And so let's just play just a brief moment of the incomparable Mr. Jingles here, incomparable Mr. Jingles. I can definitely see the Addams Family or that is so cool. I'm telling you, that is really, really cool. You guys have to. It. Of course, I'm playing this over the air, and it doesn't do it justice. Yeah, you're right. Joanne made a very good point. It reminds her of Pennywise.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good. We have a question there. We have several questions we're going to get to, guys. Your favorite music taste, obviously, besides Midnight Syndicate. What is your favorite genre, if you will?
For me, this is going to sound very strange, but I am very, very much a fan of progressive rock, which is kind of about as far from what we actually write as it gets. But like old, Genesis, yes, some of the classic, bands that wrote in that style, and even some of the newer bands like Porcupine Tree and Big Baby Train. It just, I find that music kind of takes me on a journey. And I can listen to the same album again and again, and it's just like, that's it. It just kind of takes you right away.
Okay.
it's so tough. It's such a cop out answer. Like, but here's the thing, I like to bounce. I like to bounce between genres, or feels or vibes. My favorite band of all time is the Beatles. It's always been like that since I can remember. And then my second favorite band is Black Sabbath. I love heavy metal. I suppose if I would say heavy metal probably, but that's not, because it's very much like I love rock and roll. Obviously soundtracks like by John Williams and stuff. That's the stuff that like directly inspired me to dream of making music like we do. So movie soundtracks and stuff, and movie scores. And I love electronic music too. Kraftwerk, Devo. God, I love those bands too. So it's like, unfortunately, it just goes over a lot of the, and I love a good pop band like ABBA.
Yeah.
The songwriting on there is so brilliant that you have to appreciate what they do. The songwriting, I don't even know how they're capable of producing that many catchy melodies and wonderful songs and stuff. It blows my mind. Those guys.
Yeah, I was on Jack Osborne's show, and we had the opportunity to speak to him a couple of times, a little bit about his dad, and it was really neat to hear his experience growing up, with Black Sabbath. And some of the music on Black Sabbath is truly amazing. Of course, depends on what decade it was, because Ozzy was a little interesting little character there. Well, okay, someone has asking who came up with the name? Why the name Midnight Syndicate?
I came up with it in college. The idea, I think, came from the fact of like of a syndicate. The actual word syndicate. I used to play a lot of like computer games back in the day, and one of the pirates that would like crack the code so you can play it on your Apple IIc was called the Syndicate Whip. And I was like, what? I like that name, the Syndicate, because it sounds like this, this group of people that get together and Midnight Syndicate. Okay. Now that's a group that gets together for some sort of purpose, and they get together at night. They get together at midnight in the dark. And when I heard that name, it evoked some images for me. So the hope was that when other people hear that, they got some images in their head that evoke some images. And that's what Midnight Syndicate's all about.
There's a really fantastic question. I think Jax is the one on TikTok asked this question. It really is a great question. Is there a movie that you really wish you had done, you'd created the score to?
Oh, what a great question. Oof. Ooh. Gavin? Wow. Man. I'm going to toss to you, Gavin, because
I'm going to give the elusive answer, I think, this time. I don't know, because if we did the score for it, that means that the original score wouldn't have been done by the original composer, and that would have been a loss. Like picture Halloween, the original Halloween from John Carpenter. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to score that, because that means John Carpenter's score wouldn't have been what it was. It's like I don't want to step on that.
That was Candy's question. Candy corrected. Sorry. Candy corrected me. She wanted to make sure she knew that you guys knew it was her question. It was because she's a fan of you guys. So all right, give us Candy's question. Candy's. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. No, thank you. We love horror films. That's before a new album, it's all about immersing yourself in a million horror movies just to get in that headspace and stuff. So, but yeah, like so many of the scores to these films, they're classic, and they are literally what makes the some of these movies. So it's hard to say, oh yes, because you just have respect for these composers, you know what I mean? That like have really created these iconic themes or this vibe. So, I mean, there's so much good work done. We just have favorite horror films that we could say, but man, I'm sorry that we can't answer that.
That's
but guess
right.
What? Nobody's ever asked that question in 25 years. Gavin, has anybody asked that question?
No, it's really
so that's
a good
kudos.
question.
Kudos. It took me by. I really have to think about that, and don't have an answer.
We still have a few minutes, so I'm sure you guys can just think about that. But I'm telling you, if there's any movie producers or directors who are watching this later, look, I think a a redo of the 1930s classic, the Dracula with Bela Lugosi. I have a Bela Lugosi autograph picture I'm looking at now on the wall. Big fan of Bela Lugosi. And boy, wouldn't it be amazing to again, Fallen Grandeur, executive producers, we got to put it in your show. You got to put it in your movie. But I could just see it. I mean, there is just that. Yeah. It just would be classic. Okay, so here's another tough question, if you don't mind me asking this one. You ready?
Sure.
If someone went to you and said, okay, Ed and Gavin, I don't know anything about Midnight Syndicate. You have one song that you would want me to listen to where I would say, now I know Midnight Syndicate. What song would that be?
Ooh, boy,
man, that's
too.
God, that is tough. Well, I mean, I'll buy you some time, Gavin. I would say when we look at, it's not indicative of everything we do, because thankfully we have so many. We would like to think that we have a lot of layers and a lot of breadth in the variety and on each album. But when people say, play one song to see if I think that you're going to enjoy it, Grisly Reminder off of the 13th Hour album. If you find anything enjoyable about that, you might want to dig further into our library, because you're going to find more music just like that. And then you're going to find a whole world of stuff that's totally different and more, and just not more, just different, and so much, and so you can explore so much further.
So hold on. Yeah, hold. Do you mind if I just? You mind if I just play that one real quick?
More ambient kind of sound effect oriented pieces, which kind of fills a certain kind of niche. Like if you're into those, you could pick a track like, say, maybe even like Haunted Nursery, even though it's more musical, but it's kind of got like a more ambient feel to it. But then we've got some of the bigger orchestral pieces, like the title track for Beats of Delirium, for example, or Vampire, where it's very big and epic and sweeping. And that's tough, because it's like, what do you focus on? Do you focus on the subtler things, or do you focus on the big orchestral pieces,
Yes, it's true.
That's very, and seriously, guys, we're talking to Midnight Syndicate. Thank you for the 78,000 likes on TikTok, guys. I'm telling you, go to midnightsyndicate.com and make sure that you purchase the albums. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, do you mind if I play just a brief moment of the Grisly Reminder in the 13th Hour, guys?
Sure.
Okay, here's this song is called Grisly Reminder from the, by the way, the album, The 13th Hour. You got to get it. You got to get all of them. Here it is. Grisly Reminder. Well, I just pushed the wrong button. There we go. Man, that is creepy. I can now understand why you would say that. That's a really good one. There's no question about that one. There's no doubt about it. It's
it's one of the more like smaller, like simpler songs. It's like more that like a little bit of music boxy type, a little more atmospheric, but it's a good example of what we do. And then, of course, there's the larger scale songs like Fallen Grandeur that you played earlier. Yeah. And then, like Gavin said, the big orchestral pieces like Gates of Delirium or Vampire there. Yeah, we just go all out, huge
and
orchestral pieces.
For those of you just joining, the Fallen Grandeur, if you want to know Midnight Syndicate, here you go, my friends. I'm sorry, this is it. This should be on the top. This should be on the top 100 billboards. I don't understand. Come on. What's wrong with you, Hollywood? Listen to this. Man, you know what? I just had a thought. Now I know why I love this music so much, because I just had just a brain moment there for a second. That reminds me very, very much of the Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, right on.
Because I'm a huge Phantom of the Opera fan. Love it. I actually saw Sarah Brightman do a Phantom play it, and as well as Crawford. in New York. I got to see both of them, and I'm telling you, that kind of reminds me of it. So that's, but better. All right. Someone's asking, are you available for live events?
Well, it's an interesting question. So the point that we're at right now is that we've been performing at Cedar Point during the months of September and October. They have us there for a residency, and so the show that we have right now is quite involved, I guess, to say. It's not just the two of us up there playing our instruments. There's a lot going on. We want you to feel like really immersed in this world and give you lots to look and see and hear and everything. So the show's like, it's more like we build it into a theater, and then we stay at that theater for like 7 weekends or so. Now, that being said, we are working on developing a variation of that show that is a little more transportable, so that we can go and take the show, here throughout the United States, a couple places in Europe that we want to go to, and develop that kind, and have, it's something that we're working on. And we've, after doing shows for the last 9 years now, we're getting closer and closer to being able to have, an idea of where we could do these shows. So we don't have anything at this time, but we're not far from the point where we really want to take this live show experience to people outside of the Ohio region, which is where Cedar Point's located.
First of all, I'll make this promise to you guys. If I ever win the lottery, and yes, folks, I played the lottery, I'm going to make sure you guys go on tour all over, because as long as I get the front row seat, I've got to have the front row seat.
And we have to open with Fallen Grandeur.
You have to open it and close. But no, there's a lot more. But look, it's not just that. It's also the Alchemist Chambers. Brilliant. Truly brilliant. So there is, and I love the you had mentioned the vampire, the symphonies, the Symphony from the Crypt, Symphonies from the album. It is really good. That is brilliant. If you like spooky music, it's called Vampire Symphonies from the Crypt. Man, it is phenomenal. And of course, you mentioned a couple of times Christmas. I know Christmas is coming out several months away. But it is coming up. Now, is there a particular song on the Christmas album that you guys really, really like? Is there a particular song?
Ooh, I know Christmas at Midnight's kind of won the hearts of a lot of people. That's a very beautiful song. Something
Christmas
so
at Midnight is it's very much not a horror theme. Yeah, it's very much the most different song we've ever played. I think so that is definitely that more vibe. But I think if you play Up on the Housetop, you'll see a fun rendition fairly quickly. A fun rendition of that song. Not like all the songs aren't quite like that, but it's I think it's definitely one of the standout tracks on there that people seem to resonate with. They seem to laugh.
Well, let's play a little bit, shall we?
Yes.
Christmas is coming up, folks. It's the album is Christmas, A Ghostly Gathering by Midnight Syndicate. But yep, it is. It really is cool. Take a listen. It's cool. It's a cool song. Cool song. I just have a vision of Santa Claus really pissed off.
Yes.
It's like
he's not happy.
No, it's like, come on, these bags are too heavy.
Feeling so jolly.
No.
I tell you one song that I really love is this one. Love this song, period. For those of you who don't know, it's Carol of the Bells, one of my all-time favorite Christmas songs. That's beautiful. Isn't that's just gorgeous, man. I'll tell you what. You guys are so multi-talented. It is absolutely. What is, by the way, what has been your most successful album, and why do you think that is?
Dungeons, is it, Ed?
Well, here's the whole crazy. Born of the Night is the album that like definitely helped break us initially, but then quickly 13th Hour overtook it, and 13th Hour is probably our most successful album to date. But then, in recent times, our Dungeons and Dragons album, which was always did very well. The resurgence of Dungeons and Dragons, you have to have seen, it's just making it much more back into the public's consciousness. They did a new version of it, a 5th edition of it a few years ago, which is a great big hit. Just brought the game to a whole new audience. Then they did the movie, and there's just all these celebrities started saying, playing the game, and like, man, I'm really going off. But the basic thing is Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games have made a real resurgence. And people love recording themselves playing the games, and people like watching these people play the games. And it's very entertaining, and it's really, so we've kind of ridden the wave with that, because our Dungeons and Dragons album was actually the first official soundtrack to the role-playing game that we grew up playing. It was an honor to be asked to do that album. We were completely geeked, and it was wonderful experience working with them, and to do that, and as a result, that album has soared to the charts. When you go to Spotify, the top 10 or 12, 14 tracks are like all from that Dungeons and Dragons. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We love the album. Like I said, that's the beauty. All of our albums are special to us, and so if a particular album is resonating with somebody, a particular song, that makes us so happy,
No, yeah. So a couple more questions. I really appreciate you guys spending time and talking to us. This has been truly an honor.
This is wonderful. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, because of the albums are so diverse. How do you get in the mindset? This is an interesting. How do you get into a mindset of like the albums that you create, the Fallen Grandeur or the vampire music? Do you watch? What inspires you? Yeah. Do you watch horror movies? Yeah. Do you go to locate? Where does that come from?
I'll take Gav. I'll start off with this one, because like we'll take Dungeons and Dragons. What did I do for that? Well, in addition to watching some movies, inspired with that fantasy thing, I took every single Dungeons and Dragons module cover, which is wonderful art. Dungeons and Dragons has wonderful art. Laid it all out in front of me, and I would just absorb those images, and then close my mind and then see what came out musically, or for some of the more horror thing, for the Carnival Arcane album. It was so much fun to do, because I got a big book on the history of carnivals, and the different characters and the different jobs and the history of the industry and everything like that, and what it was like, in a turn of the century carnival, and doing all that research, reading all that, really drove my contributions to that album. And then for most of these other ones, it's watching a lot of horror movies, just getting into that zone, just one horror movie after another, just keep them piling in. It gets your head in that creepy kind of like, just get the imagination going. So that's for me.
Yeah, I think like for the Brimstone Club, for me, it was like just trying to picture the sound, or imagine like what the sound of early 1900s Europe kind of would be, like some of the instrumentation, maybe like accordions and certainly like violins and stuff like that, and just kind of like letting that kind of take the song in whatever direction it wanted to go in, and just really trying to capture the mood and feel of that.
So, okay, is there one particular horror movie that really geeks you out when it comes to the theme music? That's like, man, that's brilliant. And is there what's the obviously the future now, and obviously the album you just made. So what is the next project? Have you thought about the next project? So the first question is, as far as a horror movie, is there one music that you're like, it's brilliant, besides of course yours? And is what's your next project, or have you thought about that?
I'm going to go with the original Halloween soundtrack from John Carpenter because
Yeah.
it's so simple, but it's so effective.
Yes.
It really just proves that you don't, it's sometimes simple is the best, and it really is for that movie. When you see the movie coupled with the score, you just, it's perfect. It's perfection.
Yeah.
As far as future projects, we are going to be back at Cedar Point playing for Halloween Weekends again this fall. And some of the details for that are forthcoming. They've just kind of teased like the announcement and stuff, but they haven't announced the full details and stuff. But
Okay.
it will be an all new show, something different, something interesting.
Yes,
Very cool.
Definitely. Gosh, yeah, the Gavin's Halloween is really it's a good one. It's a really good suggestion. People asked us our favorite Halloween songs, and we both answered. They asked for our top 5 in an article recently. We both picked the Halloween theme because it's one of those critically important songs to our. But I'll throw something else out. The Creep Show soundtrack, the original Creep Show soundtrack with John Harrison. The prologue going out is an absolutely amazing piece of music that incorporates so many of the things. It's got the hooky riff, it's got the choir, it's everything. So the original soundtrack to Creep Show, listen to the prologue, the last track there. That is a real wonderful piece of, but we can go on forever. We could sit here and just start naming off like horror classic, classic horror score after classic horror scores. Too much like good look what Jerry Goldsmith did with the Omen and it's just we'd be sitting here all day and then I'll forget one and then we'll end this interview and I'm like, how did you not say that? So I'm going to stop right there.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't
Okay, so first of all, the website, Midnight Syndicate, everybody, Midnight Syndicate, SYNDICATE.com. Midnight Syndicate, that is their website. Where can people purchase Midnight Syndicate, your albums?
Here's the beauty of things nowadays. If you go to Midnight Syndicate, right on the front page, you're going to find a link that will take you to our link tree. And you could see all of our albums there. Now, the beauty is, you can stream them on Spotify or on YouTube. If you just want to listen to them and see, hey, is this something I want to purchase? I just want to listen to it. It's available everywhere. And you can get to all those places from our website. Certainly the Brimstone Club, when you click on that link, it's going to give you all the places that you can stream the music. It's available everywhere if you do a search on your favorite streaming service. And then, so that's all that it really takes. Okay. And yes, of course, it's available on Amazon for purchase or iTunes for purchase and on our website and everything, on CDs and there. But that's the beauty of music nowadays, that everybody can now listen to the music that we've been listening to today for free and just see if it's your thing. And then that's the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's 6 or 7 degrees of separation, and I know that there are lots of people who are watching this now or watching it later, and you never know. There are people who might watch it who might have a friend who's an executive producer or somebody who's in the studios. Folks, they already know Midnight Syndicate exists. I mean, come on. But if they don't, tell your friends, tell the executive producers, tell the directors. You got to look at, you got to take up, you got to check it out. You got to buy the albums. And if you're doing a movie, you got to contact the guys. I'm telling you, why not? Why wouldn't you?
Nice.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you so very much for this wonderful, so generous of your time. And I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
All right.
You.
So we're gonna disconnect, but I'll send you an email afterwards, and we'll talk about that Falling Grandeur as my new theme song. We're gonna talk about that afterwards.
That'd be awesome.
All right, everybody.
Sounds awesome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you so much.
Take care. Thanks again.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was the one and only Midnight Syndicate. Facebook, YouTube, they said I could play it. Man, I tell you what, that is so powerful. I mean, just, man, it's powerful. I know I talk about that a lot, but it just, when I first listened to it, I had headsets on, and it was just, blown away. Truly, it was just blown away. And I do appreciate the guys very much for giving their time. They're very busy, and that was very nice, very very nice of them to do that. So make sure you go to their website, Midnight Syndicate. And thank you for the gifts. I apologize if I not thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the gifts on TikTok, and thank you for the 97,000 likes already. We still got an hour to go, so we're good. But well, that's okay. That's okay. It's okay that that's why we do the show, to bring you things like this and talent, so you guys can know what's out there. I'm serious. The music is so diverse. It really is. That's what's so unique about Midnight Syndicate, is if you're kind of feeling in this type of mood, they have it. If you feel that type of mood, they have it. I don't know any type of music that they haven't done that wouldn't fit a particular mood. So that's why they're very classic. So yeah, midnightsyndicate.com. That is where you need to go, midnightsyndicate.com. And make sure, do them a favor. Just go ahead and buy their album, and I think you'll really, really enjoy it. No, I do not, Nikki. Okay, for those of you who are just joining, I'm Bishop James Long, and thanks for being here. We certainly happy Friday to all of you. Hopefully you're having a good Friday, and hopefully you'll have a good weekend. But stay, at least stay out of the sun. Today it was 98 degrees. It was 98 degrees where I live. Of course, it felt like 110, but I was still out there chugging along, and I did my exercising. I didn't get my whole 5,000 or 5 miles in because it was just simply too hot. It was just too dangerous out there. And thank you very much for the roses. I appreciate that. Oh yeah, yes, they've been around for quite some time, and yeah, next week we're supposed to have a kind of a cool down here, so I hope so, because it is bad. Okay, also don't forget, everybody, we have our wonderful, wonderful folks who sponsor the show, and that's KGRADB Radio, and don't forget to go to their website. I'm doing great things. KGRADB.com, and make sure you subscribe. But again, put Bishop as your promo code. Don't forget that, because you're going to get 30% off. So again, it's right there on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, KGRAD as in dog, B as in boy.com, and put Bishop as your promo code. All right. So now we'll get into some of your paranormal questions. I got some really, really cool articles that I also want to go through as well. MUFON, Massachusetts, I walked 2.5 miles today. Wow. Yeah, it's MUFON is a really great organization, by the way. It's a great organization. It's cooler in the UK. You guys are lucky. You guys are so lucky. Unfortunately, I can't bring you guys on. I wish I could, but I can't. So this is for those of you who've never seen the show before. I'm Bishop James Long. I'm a cast member of Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists show. It aired on the Travel Channel and also HBO or Max, they call it now. I did do Ghost Adventures, the Bobby Mackey's episodes, in the History Channel, National Geographic, a bunch of networks. I've lost a lot of weight, so a lot of people say, you look familiar?" Yeah, I lost a lot of weight, so we keep on pushing through. That's what we do. So I talk to you about any of your paranormal questions, supernatural questions, demonology questions, whatever questions you have. But this is our paranormal Friday night. How did I come across? Well, actually, I came across Midnight Syndicate. I was trying to find some music, just to kind of set the ambiance, I guess. And I think that's how I came across them. I can't remember when this was back. This was quite some time ago. So I've known Midnight Syndicate for Ed and Gavin a long time. Okay. Eugenics. Yeah, eugenics is an interesting. I have a problem with eugenics. For those of you, someone's asking about my theory on or eugenics. If you don't know what eugenics is, Eugenics is it's controversial, very, very controversial theory, an actual practice that attempts to improve the traits of a population through selective breeding. It was actually popular. It's not a new necessarily theory. It was popular in the early 20th century. It fell out of favor due to its association with discriminatory practices and human rights abuses. By the way, particularly during the 1940s, I just that way I don't want to get flagged or banned. 1940s Germany. It has been discredited, widely discredited, actually by the scientific community. It's considered, and it's very unethical. So I just, it's now widely, I think, recognized that all individuals have equal worth and dignity. So ultimately, eugenics is, it follows along with Nietzsche, the overman mentality, which I completely disagree with. The overman mentality is the weak should be discarded, and only the strong and the powerful and the beneficial to society should remain. I think it's unethical, it's immoral, and I certainly don't support it. So yeah, it's very dangerous though. When you start playing with God, when you start playing with character traits and human DNA, that becomes very dangerous, because then that overman mentality of discarding the weak, because what happens is, and that's really, really dangerous, because if culture or society incorporates this type of theory into their beliefs, then we will absolutely go down the rabbit hole of eugenics. What I'm talking, will go down that rabbit hole of discarding the weak and elderly and disabled. Now, I just don't agree with that, because the weak and the elderly and disabled are just as important as, Superman. We put a value on human life, and that's, once you do that, and then you discard the weak and the sick and the elderly and the handicapped. Once you start doing that, that's when society goes down the tubes. And we've seen this, and we've seen this in many cultures throughout the years. So no, I'm not a fan of that. Okay. Well, okay. Eugenics is just the selective breeding, and you just try to create a better person, DNA, and you discard. It's the overman mentality. It's Nietzsche. You discard the elderly, you discard the weak, you discard the sick, and you only have the strong. I disagree. Okay. So anyway, that's a little bit of I know a lot of people like, woo, but yeah, I'm very familiar with it. So if you have any questions regarding to the paranormal, then go ahead and throw them out. I'll do the best that I can to answer them and go from there. Yeah, I just, I'm just a little concerned about it. So, by the way, everybody, I don't know. Have you heard of this before? Listen to this. I think this is so stupid. I really do. But okay. An AI, artificial intelligence powered app lets you chat with Jesus and other biblical figures. We knew this was going to happen. This is by some individual, a writer named Spooky, and he wrote this, and it says, "Text with Jesus is a new instant messaging application powered by Chat GPT that allows users to chat with Jesus and other biblical figures, impersonated by popular artificial intelligence program." Okay, let's be fair though. That's created by Cat Loaf Software. It's an app development company in LA. The new messaging program features a plethora of biblical features, from Jesus to Judas and the rest of the apostles, and even First Testament protagonists like Ruth, Job, Abraham's nephew, Lot. And of course, if your dark side ever takes over, that says there's even an option to chat with Satan. Yep, you heard it, folks. You can chat with Satan. Well, there's nothing wrong about that. Nothing bad will happen about that, said no one. Anyway, the app was launched recently and has been getting mixed feedback online. Reactions have been varied from amusement to accusations of blasphemy and heresy, which is really not that surprising, the author says, considering the sensitive topic. For some people, religion is the most sacred thing in their lives, so they don't take lightly anything they consider offensive. So I'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow, because I know Miss Wilma is going to say, I know Miss Wilma is going to have something to say about this. I'm going to be here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I go live again with Miss Wilma. So from 8 to 8:30. Miss Wilma, she's a dear friend of mine, so I can consider her a family member. And she's 68 years old. She has multiple sclerosis. She has a pacemaker. But she comes on and we harass each other. So for 30 minutes, we just have a good time and we chat. And I'm definitely going to talk to her about that. So we will we'll go from there. Okay. I have quite a few. Okay. I agree. I agree. The 3 days of darkness. Well, so okay. A lot of people have no idea what that is. So that's why we do this show, so we can educate everybody. Right? Mm-hmm. I agree, Felix. All right. 3 days of darkness. The theory of the 3 days of darkness, for those of you who don't know, suggests that there will be a period of 3 days where the entire world will experience darkness. This theory has roots in various religious and esoteric beliefs, actually. Now, in some religious contexts, such as Christianity, there are mentions of darkness lasting 3 days during significant events, such as the crucifixion of Christ or the biblical story of Exodus. So these narratives have led to some to interpret them as like a prophetic indication of future events. In other beliefs, the 3 day of darkness, actually, the theory is associated with the apocalyptic events or catastrophic occurrences, often like mentioned in conjunction with the end times, or even a shift of consciousness, people are saying. Now, there are some conspiracy theories out there propose that this darkness will be caused by a natural phenomenon. Okay, like a massive solar flare, or an alignment of celestial bodies, or even a deliberate act of like a shadowy organization. Those are the theories. However, it's important, I think, to note that there is no scientific basis or substantial evidence to support the theory of the 3 days of darkness as a factual event. So right now it's theory. The concept, however, I would certainly say it remains predominantly within the realms of religion, esoteric, and even speculative theories. It's always recommended I think it's recommended to approach these theories critically and rely on verified information from reliable sources. Now, in saying that, is it possible that we could have a massive solar flare storm in which a huge burst of solar flare would then hit the Earth and do massive damage to our power grid? Well, the answer is yes. That absolutely is possible. Now, that to me is frightening, because really then we would absolutely go back to the Amish days. You could not get your money from your bank. You couldn't do anything. I mean, everything would be just complete to halt. I mean, think of everything that we do. Everything we do runs on electricity. I mean, there would not be an internet. There would not be television. There would not be. It would be complete darkness. So that's a frightening prospect. But I do believe that a solar flare could absolutely do some and do some major damage to the power grid, and put us 20 up to 20 years to repair it. So I do believe it's a theory that I think could happen. Okay, guys, I don't know. But I'm not trying to scare everybody. I'm just But it does. It can happen. Yeah, knocked out communications. You're right. Everything. So yeah. Well, that's a good question, and because I'm a science nerd, someone's asking me, how long does it take for a solar flare to go from the sun to hit Earth? The travel time of a solar flare from the sun to the earth. Well, thank you very much for the universe. Thank you. I appreciate that. The time, the travel time of the solar flare from the sun to the earth depends on several factors. Okay, such as the speed of the particles and distance between the sun and the earth at the time. And generally, it takes around 8 minutes for light to travel from the sun to the earth. So as the average distance between the two is about 93 million miles. Think about that. We're 93 million miles away. However, the charged particles associated with the solar flare, known as coronal mass ejection, or CME, can take anywhere from several hours to a couple of days to reach Earth, depending on their speed and direction. But it could be quite quick, and we wouldn't have a whole lot of notice. So, but thank you again for the gifts. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you, and thank you for the 117,000 likes on TikTok. Yeah, solar flares are dangerous. That's not something to I think that's 100% a legitimate concern, and I think something we have to kind of focus on. I've talked about this before. I love history, and I've talked also about, there's a place I've done a show on, the Oikigahara forest. Those, I don't know if you missed that show or not, but I did a show one time on the Oikigahara forest. That is the forest in Japan that is allegedly very haunted. I think I'll have to talk about that again, because I really, really enjoyed doing that presentation, because that's one place that I would love to go to. The history there is just, man, it's just what it's a powerful place. It is. I actually had some friends of mine who went there, and they had a lot to tell. So, well, here, this is from Ferris Aziz. This is interesting. Echoes of Valor. There have been haunting encounters lately with American and Japanese soldier spirits on Iwo Jima. I don't know if you've heard of this before. It says here, in the vast expanse of the Pacific lies a small volcanic island with a history that resonates through time. Iwo Jima, a name etched into the annals of World War II, stands as a symbol of valor, sacrifice, and the horrors of war. Beyond its historical significance and the iconic photograph of the American flag raising, there is a haunting aspect to this sacred ground. The Battle of Iwo Jima site is not just a testimony to bravery, the author says. It's a place where echoes of the past linger, where the spirits of both American and Japanese soldiers are allegedly said to roam. So it says here in the article, it says we'll explore the haunting stories and eerie encounters reported at this hallowed site, including both tales of American and Japanese soldiers. For those of you who don't know, before we delve into the haunting tales, it's important to understand the historical context of the Battle of Iwo Jima. The battle, which raged from February 19th to March 26, 1945, was a pivotal moment in World War II Pacific theater. The island of Iwo Jima, located roughly halfway between Japan and Mariana Islands, held immense strategic importance. The Japanese had heavily fortified the island with a complex network of tunnels and bunkers, making it a formidable stronghold. Now, for the United States, capturing Iwo Jima was a crucial for establishing airfields that could be used as the base for bombers on their long-range missions over Japan. Well, the battle was fierce and brutal, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides. The United States Marine Corps, in particular, faced intense resistance as they fought inch by inch across the island's volcanic terrain. And after 36 days of relentless combat, the U.S. forces finally secured victory. Now, it is not only American soldiers whose spirits are allegedly said to haunt Iwo Jima. Visitors and Japanese veterans have reported sightings of Japanese soldiers, ghosts dressed in wartime uniform. And these spirits are often seen paying respects at their memorial sites. Now, one particular moving tale tells of a Japanese war veteran who revisited the island to honor his fallen comrades. While standing at a Japanese memorial, he saw a group of figures, Japanese figures, men dressed in military attire, silently bowing in reverence. So the veteran, deeply moved by the sight, felt a sense of closure and reconciliation with the past. And then these soldiers vanished. And some witnesses actually have described hearing faint whispers in Japanese as if the ghosts are communicating or reliving moments from the past. These whispers are often accompanied by the distant echoes of the battle. One visitor, while standing near a Japanese bunker, reported hearing hushed conversations in Japanese. Although the words were indistinct, the emotional weight of the encounter left a lasting impression. So visitors to the island today have recounted many times where offerings of food and sake and other gifts, sake and other items have mysteriously appeared on Japanese memorial sites. It's as if the spirits are accepting these gifts in honor of their sacrifice. So, by the way, in one account, a group of Japanese tourists left offerings of sake at a memorial. Upon returning the next morning, they found the bottles neatly arranged in a circle. And the experience left them with a profound sense of connection to the spirits of Iwo Jima. And numerous accounts tell of apparitions and ghostly figures seen wandering the island, often dressed in the tattered uniforms of U.S. Marines from World War II. These spirits are believed to be the souls of American soldiers who perished during the battle. Now, some witnesses have actually described hearing faint whispers and distant echoes of battle cries, even when no one is around. One such account comes from a veteran who returned to Iwo Jima decades after the war. Now, as he stood near the landing beaches, he saw the very faint image of a young Marine struggling through the volcanic sands. The ghostly figure seemed to be reliving the harrowing moments of combat, crawling under enemy fire. And the veteran, deeply moved, believed that he had actually witnessed a fellow Marine's spirit paying homage to fallen comrades. Also, here's what's really cool. Many people are reporting seeing footprints materialize in the volcanic sands of the island, and it's seemingly left by invisible entities. Thank you very much. These phantom footprints often appear alongside the real footprints of visitors, creating an eerie and surreal experience. In one instance, a group of tourists saw a set of footprints suddenly appear and follow them as they were exploring the battlefield. And the inexplicable event left them with a profound sense of connection to the past. Also, there have been really a lot of unsettling sounds. Disembodied voices where you can hear it from your ear have been documented at the Battle of Iwo Jima site. Some visitors claim to have heard the distant sounds of gunfire, explosions, shouting as if the battle were still raging. Others have reported hearing the melancholy strains of military bugle calls in the dead of night. One Marine veteran, while visiting the site, described hearing the familiar cadence of taps playing softly on the wind, evoking obviously memories of the comrades lost. Now, a lot of people, the haunting phenomenon at the Battle of Iwo Jima, the site, have sparked a lot of theories. Skeptics often attribute these experiences to psychological factors, including the intense emotional energy that permeates the site due to his historical significance. Fine. Others suggest that the rugged and volatile geological nature of the island might contribute to these strange occurrences. However, many who have witnessed these events firmly believe that they have encountered the restless spirits of those who fought and died during the battle. And these accounts are deeply personal for many of the people who have heard them, and for some provide a sense of connection to the past and profound respect for the sacrifice made for the soldiers. It is really, I'm telling you, it's a powerful. A lot of people are swearing that they are hearing this. Now, again, there's a lot of theories. There is a term called residual haunting. Now, there is a intelligent haunting and a residual haunting. Okay, and so let's talk about the difference. Uh, what was that? What is the question? Oh, hold on, yeah, hold on Messenger. Hold on one second. Interactive or intelligent haunting is when the spirit, the ghost, if you will, interacts with you. It's intelligent. They know that you are there. They are aware of you, and they know that you are aware of them. They interact. That is intelligent. Now, it's different than a residual haunting. A residual haunting, residual, residual. A residual haunting, it's a type of paranormal activity where a ghostly event or energy is repeated over and over again. So unlike an intelligent haunting, where the ghost is responsive and aware of its surroundings, a residual haunting is more like a playback of a past event that's somehow imprinted on a location. It's believed that that certain emotional or traumatic events can create an energy, a residue that gets recorded in the environment and replays itself, often without any interaction or awareness from the ghost. These residual hauntings are typically non-threatening, thank you, and do not directly interact with the living. So there have been a lot of residual hauntings that people have seen, especially in I keep forgetting the place here in the United States. Oh, it's a huge place where a lot of Gettysburg. A lot of people have seen what they would think, have seen what they would describe as residual soldiers. As a matter of fact, there's a video out, and you've probably seen this before. It's been on television, many television shows, where you clearly someone had caught where it looks like these soldiers in Civil War uniform just keeps going around and around. I think that's an amazing, absolute amazing capture. Thank you very much, Desiree. I appreciate it. So that's what a residual is. So a lot of people think that this is somehow a residual haunting, that this energy, this energy residue it gets recorded in the environment. It replays itself. We simply don't know why, but we know that I am absolutely convinced I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen residual haunting. I can't explain it, but I can tell you I've seen it. So, okay. No. Why don't people become spirit? Well, because we have a soul. That's what the soul is. So no, I don't. Now there are a lot of people out there. I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of people who would say, "Oh no. There's no such thing as ghosts. It says in the Bible, no such thing as ghosts." Actually, that's not scriptural at all. And I'll tell you why. A lot of people don't realize that the Bible actually mentions ghosts. And I've said this, usually I say this every week. If you go to Matthew chapter 14, verse 26, remember when the storm, the disciples were in the boat and they saw Jesus walking on the water, but they didn't recognize Jesus and they were terrified. And it says they thought they were seeing it's a ghost. Now that tells us that the disciples had the concept of what ghosts were. At least they knew the term. And people say, well, it meant devil. That's not what it says. That's not what it says. You cannot get the word devil and ghost confused. You just can't. So I mean, it's very, very clear. And also in Luke chapter 24, verse 36 through 51, after Jesus was crucified and he appeared to the disciples and they said, it's a ghost. And then he said, no, touch me and find out for yourselves. Ghosts don't have flesh and bones as you see that I have. So as I've said this a million times, if ghosts don't exist, Jesus would have said, don't be silly. You know ghosts don't exist. But that's not what he said. What he said is ghosts don't have flesh and bones as you see that I have because they're in spirit form. So I think this whole idea, I don't know where that came from, but no, it's biblically incorrect. So, well, no, I've been studying demonology since I was 9 years old, and I read constantly, new theories, new ideas, theological beliefs. So for me, it's just something that I've devoted my entire life. This is not a hobby. And okay, well, hey, Michael, guess what, Michael? I appreciate your opinion, Michael, but you know what this is for? This is called block. Bye-bye. Sorry, I had to block somebody. Somebody that has to tell me that you're this and you better listen to me because my opinion matters because I'm God. Get off the cross and let Jesus ever try. Okay, sunshine? Okay. Man, some people. And that is what the block is for. Lucille, what brought me to the study of demonology is a calling. I never chose this. I never chose it. I chose to accept it, but I never, ever, ever chose to be. I never chose to be an exorcist. I never chose. I knew at a very early age that I wanted. At 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be a priest. And then when I was 9, I just read so much on demonology. I couldn't stop. And even today, like I said, I'm constantly reading because this is not a hobby. And anybody who calls themselves a demonologist, and certainly if you call yourself an exorcist, this cannot be a hobby for you. This is an identity. And because this is not something you literally have to give your entire life to it. This is not a part-time gig, or this is not a way that people can, I'm going to, because a lot of people do this. A lot of people call themselves a demonologist and even an exorcist. They have no training whatsoever, no theological training at all. And they try to do this because they try to get a name for themselves so they can be famous in the paranormal. And that to me is very problematic. Because I think it's a mockery. Number one, it's blasphemy, because this is something you don't choose. This is something that God calls you to do. Well, thank you for the train. I appreciate that. So, yeah, this is just something that I knew. I knew. If you take away demonology from me, if you take away this ministry from me, then you are actually taking away my identity. Then I cease to become Bishop James Long. So I cannot see my life without that. This is not something that I just enjoy on a part-time basis. This is something that I am truly 100% dedicated to. And not only that, but I have a master's of education. So I love to teach. So I'm passionate about teaching. So I want to share the knowledge that I have learned as an exorcist, as the 30 exorcisms that I have performed. I want to teach. Your reason for living? I'm confused. Eric, are you asking me your reason for living? Are you asking? Well, help me out there, Eric, with the question. Sorry, I just that kind of got my attention. What do you mean by that, my friend? Are you asking me what is my reason for living? Oh, it's a reason for living. Well, it's more than but it's yeah, I mean it's who I am. Yeah, it's who I am. So there's a lot of people who say that they're an exorcist and they like to teach about this, but I got to tell you something. If they actually came across someone who's truly possessed, I think they'd run out of the room. See, when I was first started, when I went public with my ministry over 20 years ago in the paranormal community, it was me and Father Andrew Calder. That was it. And Father Andrew Calder was an Episcopalian, schismatic group from the Episcopalian. He's no longer with us. And there were very few people in the paranormal community. As a matter of fact, I think maybe 3 that I can think of that were actually calling themselves a demonologist, who were legit demonologists. I think maybe even 2. Now it seems like in every single paranormal team, there's a person who claims to be a demonologist, and even more scary than that, now they're performing rites that are strictly reserved for an exorcist. So that tells me that they're not trained, because a demonologist has no business whatsoever to perform the solemn rite of exorcism. They have no faculties to do so. They're not ordained. A demonologist is a person who is called by God, who then works cases, demonic cases, and then gathers all the evidence and presents the evidence to an exorcist and say, look, this is what we have. We need your help. That's what a demonologist does. A demonologist has no authority, no faculty. They should never perform the solemn rite of exorcism. Now, that's different than a deliverance. So a deliverance is when a person has an attachment. You can pray, or anybody can pray over somebody else, 100%. That's not the issue. I'm talking about the solemn rite of exorcism. Yeah, that's a bit different. The solemn rite of exorcism, you can't, because actually in the rubrics, which is called the rules of the solemn rite of exorcism, this is an ancient rite, folks. Remember, this was the first form of the rite of exorcism was written in 1614. And actually, the first mention of exorcist as an office comes from Pope Cornelius in 253. So the first form was written in 1614. And it's very clear in the rubrics. It's very clear in the rubrics. And the rubric says that if you are not a priest, you have no business even reading the solemn rite of exorcism. Now, I'm talking about Catholic, the Catholic solemn rite of exorcism. Now, the question is, can anyone perform an exorcism? Well, it depends on okay, see, that's a tricky question. And here's why. Because there are, there's two type of exorcisms, if you will, on individuals. Okay, remember, exorcism literally means to bind with an oath. So there is what's called a supplicating exorcism. Okay, a supplicating exorcism. That is a prayer. That's a prayer that's directed to God, who's asked to bring relief to the life of the one who is experiencing evil in their life. It's also known as a deliverance. In that case, yes, a person, a Christian can absolutely pray over a person to remove that attachment. Yep. Okay. That's different than what is called an imperative exorcism. Okay. An imperative exorcism it's a command given in the name of Christ, directed to the demon itself, demanding it to depart. So the Catholic belief, because that's what I was trained in. So I'm just speaking from the Catholic perspective, obviously. The Catholic belief is that any believer can perform what's called a supplicating exorcism. Remember, because the prayer is directed towards God, and it's asking, it's praying for a person and who's dealing with evil in their life. But an imperative exorcism, now that is a sacred ritual that is reserved for a priest who has been authorized to perform this ministry by their bishop, because the priest is standing in persona Christi, and the church prays with the priest, the exorcist that is obviously embarking on the exorcism. So that's really important. I have not done any. Actually, I was going to meet Tony, but when I went to Connecticut, but we couldn't get that. We couldn't get there. But I knew Lorraine. But yeah, I was friends with Lorraine. So, matter of fact, I had her a couple of times on my show. She's such a sweetheart. She was a sweetheart of a person. For those, by the way, let me just tell you this is, and I'm going to stay on TikTok for a little bit after the show is over. So if you want to hang out with me, if you guys, when we close the show out tonight, in about 10 minutes or so, I am going to be staying on TikTok for a little bit, answering some of your questions. This is by Tobias and Emily Wayland. If you have not heard about this, and this is pretty cool, a man is reporting he's citing a mysterious big black animal in Hartford, Wisconsin. So the Singular Fortean Society was contacted recently by Christopher Pauls, 46 years old, who wanted to report the sighting of a mysterious big black animal that he's had as a child. So initial contact came through an email, Weird Animal Wisconsin, in the subject line that said, came across your article about a strange animal sighting in Beloit, Wisconsin. I got excited when I read the description, as it was exactly what I had seen many years earlier in Hartford, Wisconsin. I was a kid when I saw it. but I often tell the story. And when I read the witness's description of the animal to my wife, she freaked out and told me I should tell someone my story. Well, the report referenced in the email that is that of a woman who said that she and her husband had seen a bizarre creature in the spring of 2013 near Beloit, Wisconsin. A similar creature was later reported just 8 miles away in 2019 in Rockton, Illinois. Investigator Tobias Whalen was able to schedule a phone interview with Christopher to gather his testimony. So a lot of people are seeing these weird cryptids. Christopher told the investigator that his encounter had taken place during the afternoon of a sunny day, sometime around mid-August, between 1980 and 1982, when he was 4 or 5 years old. His family lived on St. Patrick Circle in Hartford, Wisconsin at the time, and during the day he was watched by a babysitter only a few houses away. So on this particular afternoon, Christopher was being watched by his babysitter, 16-year-old son Mike, while he rode his tricycle on a cul-de-sac that had been built in the otherwise rural, isolated area. He says there was a big cornfield. That's what I remember. He said, I was off in that circle area just pedaling away on my little tricycle, and Mike had gone to the right, doing something off on his own. And at some point, he noticed that he and Mike were not alone. He said just outside of the cornfield, there was like a 20 or 30-foot gap between the road and the cornfield where there was just grass. And right there, I see this big black animal. It was just looking at me. It had been there longer than I had noticed because it was kind of fixed on me, and it started to like. I don't remember if it was ever still, but all I remember is seeing it right next to me. So not a stalking pose, but kind of an upright. It was like it was running next to me just to keep pace, sort of. He says, I mean, not running, but trotting, I guess, Christopher said. It just fixed on me. It was staring right directly at me. It was about 10 feet from the cornfield, so maybe a third of the way towards the road. Must have been 20 feet away from me. I was really close to it, they said. Now, according to Christopher, the animal was a quadrupedal and strongly resembled a big cat with a long tail. For a second, I thought it might be a mangy bear or something, but when I really thought about how it moved, I knew it was a cat. So the creature stood approximately 3 feet high. Its body was 3 or 4 feet long. Its tail was roughly the length of its body, if not a little shorter. That's kind of crazy. Now, he says here, my first thought was that it looked like a black version of the Pink Panther cartoon. It had that jet black hair. It was skinny, though. It moved like a cat and had a cat's tail, but the legs were longer for some reason. It wasn't the typical barrel body that you would see on a jaguar or a tiger. You know how they have that kind of wide midsection, he says, and their legs are a little bit shorter. It was different from that, he explained. And then the most unusual part was the head. One of the reasons that it did look like that cartoon, its head, was really wide. It was very triangular in shape. I don't remember if the ears had any tufts or anything on there, but it didn't have any. It didn't have its mouth open, that's for sure. But I remember thinking that it looked like it was smiling. Completely black, but I think the eyes were yellow. I don't. What do you guys think? I have never heard of a creature like this, but it sounds like something is kind of going on there because people are seeing a lot more people are seeing these things. Now it says here bobcats and mountain lions are the largest two species of cats most often found in Wisconsin. Although, according to Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, only bobcats are known to breed in that state. Now, adult mountain lions can be up to 8 feet long with 23 to 26 inch tail and weigh up to 160 pounds. Now, obviously, while bobcats are around 2.5 feet long with 5 to 9 inch tails and weigh up to 40 pounds. So there's a lot of people are reporting these things, and I don't know what they're seeing, but they're seeing something. Oh yeah, Black Panther. Yeah, it's kind of creepy, isn't it? I mean, could you imagine being a child and seeing that? Oh, by the way, for those of you, who, if you don't, was a Nibiru, or I don't know what Nibiru. Anyway, conspiracy theorist has an explanation after Nibiru failed to destroy Earth last week. If you didn't hear about this, yeah, Nibiru was supposed to destroy Earth. Well, it didn't happen. This is called from IFL Science. I wonder why. It says you may have missed last week, but according to one conspiracy theorist, a rogue planet should have smashed into Earth on last Friday, ending life as we know it. You see, Mike Buckner announced the end of the world on Twitter, the apocalyptic soothsayer's medium of choice. See, Buckner spent the week before Nibiru was meant to hit, warning as many people as he could to take shelter. Sunshine. If Nibiru is a planet and it crashes into Earth, shelter ain't going to help you. I'm just saying. Telling his audience, a few will survive. You don't think, before one final I am headed for the caves tweet. So that's what he says in his tweet. The final 24 hours of civilization, Nibiru approaches. The post shift is coming. Floods, quakes, fires. Head for shelter, caves, bunkers. Alert your family, friends, and neighbors. Few will survive. I'm headed for the caves. Hey, Mike, you can come out of the caves now, sunshine. Didn't happen. So as you probably noticed now, it didn't happen. Thank you there, Mr. Producer. It didn't happen. The world did not end last week. Instead, choosing to continue with the usual Saturday, just continued. The reason for this lack of impact is that the planet Nibiru, folks, it doesn't exist. Sorry. Nibiru and other stories of wayward planets are an internet hoax. There's no factual basis of these claims. And this is not coming from Bishop James Long. This is actually coming from NASA. So NASA patiently explained in 2012, when Nibiru was supposed to hit Earth twice back then, if Nibiru or Planet X were real or headed for an encounter with the Earth, astronomers would have been tracking it for at least the past decade. And it would have been visible. Obviously, it doesn't exist. So anyway, now there's debate about whether the solar system harbors a hidden planet 9 beyond the orbit of Neptune. There's no talk of this planet swerving wildly out of its hidden orbit or heading towards Earth, folks. So again, it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. So he wrote back, when it didn't happen, I thought I was right. I thought Nibiru was coming. Sunshine, you're watching too many social media videos. The physics worked. What didn't work was my fundamental understanding of reality. Ding, 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 ding. There you go. He says, I know the truth. We live on a flat plane. We live underneath a firmament. The globalists lie for control. More to come. Okay, Mike. There you go. All right. For those of you on the Spreaker, Lord, I'm going to, of course, say goodnight to you guys. I want to remind everybody that tonight we have night prayer at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join us, stick around. You can go to bishopjameslong.com and you can click on the night prayer link. It's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. We have some music before we leave. I'm going to stay on TikTok for a little bit longer, but I tell you all the time, folks, I'm going to be here tomorrow. Don't forget, I'll be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Miss Wilma, and I'll answer more questions. But believe me, I'll stay with me on TikTok. I tell you all the time that your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, KGRADB Radio. God bless.
The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.